So, when we think about time travel paradoxes, we usually think big, right? Like stopping major historical events. But what if the paradox that could completely erase you from existence could be triggered by something much, much smaller? And that's the really unsettling question we're digging into today. We're going to break down this chilling idea, where a delay of just 10 minutes doesn't just change your future, it makes it so you never had one to begin with. All right, so let's set the scene for our story. It all kicks off with a seemingly tiny ripple in time, an action so small a time traveler might not even give it a second thought.
10 minutes. Yeah, that's it. The time it takes to grab a coffee, listen to a couple of songs. In the grand scheme of things, it's basically nothing. But when we're talking about the fragile math of causality, well, it can be everything.
You know, the really scary thing is just how normal the trigger could be. Just imagine a time traveler causing one of their ancestors to be a little bit late, making them miss a train, or even just stopping to clean up a spilled coffee. It's so simple, you'd barely notice. But that tiny delay starts a catastrophic chain reaction.
So this brings us to a critical idea from our source material, the precision threshold. The best way to think about it is like a tripwire in time. The timeline is just so incredibly sensitive that once a ripple crosses this line, it's not a minor thing anymore. It escalates into a full-blown existence-ending paradox.
And this is a perfect way to picture that escalation. You know, the butterfly effect? A small change leads to huge, unexpected results down the line. That's one thing. But when that result is the complete erasure of the person who made the change, well, you've just crossed over into the infamous grandfather paradox. Okay, let's move into our second act. This is where things get really wild on a biological level, and honestly, it's pretty terrifying. We're about to look at the shocking mechanics of this paradox, right down to the microscopic scale. The path from a simple 10-minute delay to you never existing happens in these 4 fatal steps. It all starts with something called cellular sensitivity. That sensitivity then causes a catastrophic genetic divergence. And from there, the traveler suffers complete existential negation, which in turn creates an unbreakable paradoxical loop. Let's start at the very beginning, at the most fundamental level. That 10-minute delay isn't just some minor inconvenience for your ancestors. No, it's a biological cataclysm. On a cellular level, it changes everything. The exact timing, body temperature, the precise biological state of your ancestors when you were conceived, every single one of those tiny variables is now different.
And here it is, the brutal biological truth. That tiny shift in conditions means that a completely different sperm cell, out of millions, is the one that reaches the egg. It's not the one that carried the specific genetic code to make you. It's a different winner of the genetic lottery.
And that brings us to the tragic climax of this whole thing. The consequence of that one change at the cellular level isn't a slightly different version of you. It's a total and complete erasure.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. In the original timeline, a very specific genetic combination comes together, and you are born. But in the new, altered timeline, a different genetic combination forms, and a completely different person is born instead. They might be your sibling, but they are not you.
So this is the crucial distinction. This isn't about dying. This is existential negation. The time traveler gets wiped from the timeline so completely that in this new reality, they never existed at all. They are, quite literally, never born.
And this is the paradox in its purest form. It's a total trap. If you were never born, how could you possibly have gone back in time to cause the delay that prevented you from being born? It's a perfect, unbreakable, self-canceling loop. It's a complete breakdown of all logic.
So for our final act, let's zoom out a bit. What does this tragedy actually tell us about the fundamental laws of our universe? It suggests the paradox isn't really a problem that needs solving. It's something else entirely. We always tend to think that the timeline needs to fix itself when a paradox happens. But what if the paradox is the fix? What if it's a law of nature just as basic as gravity that simply says, nope, this can't happen? The sources call this a logical barrier. See, the paradox isn't some error in the system, it's the system's firewall. It exists specifically to prevent these kinds of self-defeating contradictions from ever happening by drawing a hard line around what's possible.
So, how does it get resolved? Well, the paradox is the resolution. It prevents the problem by making the journey impossible from the very beginning. The only outcome is a total rewrite of the timeline where the traveler never existed to make the trip. And fundamental physical laws, like entropy, the arrow of time, are the ultimate cops on the beat, making sure these loops just can't form in the real world.
And this quote really is the key takeaway for all of this. The grandfather paradox isn't an adventure a time traveler goes on, it's a definitional impossibility. It proves that a journey like that simply can't be made. It's the universe's ultimate defense system for its own cause and effect logic.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Are we meant to just view the past like a movie that's already been filmed, totally unchangeable? The 10-minute paradox seems to suggest that. Especially for the events that lead to our own existence, the past isn't like a line we can go back and edit. It's more like a solid wall that we can only ever run into.